from the last conference up to date. But also today, being the last time as the outgoing Secretary General, he addresses you in that capacity. His name is Samson. The other name is Gwede. The surname is Mantashe. Now the initials makes him the SG for life, because even if he's no longer the SG of the ANC, his initial remains SG. SG Mantashe?
Thank you very much. I don't think this is a media briefing per se. It's actually a gathering with you as journalists. Express my appreciation of the time I spent with you. Difficult times, sometimes you ask questions that the intention is clear to put me in the corner. I will miss that. I make a commitment that once a new Secretary General is elected, I will bring him here and introduce him to you. How you deal with that new Secretary General is not my business, really. But I will give you that new Secretary General, I will bring that, sir. You will allow me to do that. Because if I don't do that, it will be like missing on duty and therefore just disappear, and you all say, where did this man go? I will bring that new Secretary General, and anybody who phones me, I will tell you that, why do you phone me? I introduce the new Secretary General to you. Thank you very much. It was nice working with you, difficult sometimes, tense in some moments, but we enjoyed all the time. I always tell people that somebody who taught me something about politics much earlier in life said, never fight the media and never fight the church. Those are old institutions in society. I'm keeping to that. I don't have time to fight the media and fight the church. I don't have that time. Even when people drag us through the mud, we stand up and go on. The run-up to this conference was particularly difficult. We saw many things that have happened to all individual people who are standing for elections. And I always remind the people that, history has this tendency of repeating itself. When Verwoerd was assassinated in Parliament, his second in command was Ben Schoeman. Ben Schoeman never became the successor. And he didn't become the successor because the Securocrats dirtied him, discredited him, and he gave up the contest. And they gave us P.J. Foster. And that's where we were. And I saw signs of those dirty tricks as we're coming to this conference on everyone who was contending and contesting any position. And we said that is what politics is all about. We're happy to be here. We presented our last organizational report yesterday. That organizational report gave the incoming NEC feedback on every issue and where we stand on any issue. But central to the message was that if the ANC is flat-footed on any issue, it leaves a vacuum for the leadership of society. The ANC must be able to express a view on everything. It doesn't matter how painful it is. And in the plenary, went through all the difficult issues that we're confronted with, whether it was the Nganda case, whether it was the public protector's report, whether it was the Concord judgment. You can think of it, the current debate on state capture. We said on all these issues, the ANC must take firm decisions and provide leadership to society. If the ANC is in doubt, society runs out of leadership, and everybody can howl and lead the society to any direction. And that was the essence of that report. We did analysis of all our provinces, and the main task remaining is to ensure that we do go back to provinces, strengthen them. If a number of provinces come to a conference with court cases and judgments, you must know that something is not well. There's going to be a volume of work in the jurisprudence about the ANC It is not well for the ANC. We looked into our subcommittees. Many of them work well. That is where the bulk of the work of the ANC happened. And basically, that was it. As I said, the main purpose today was to say to you, thank you very much, goodbye, farewell. I'm not going to be Secretary General in few hours. Actually, when I step out of that conference, I will be unemployed. If you want an editor, I'm available. There you are.
Thank you very much, outgoing SG. Sounds like a fairy tale that we meet today and the SG is bowing out. On behalf of myself and my team SG, I would like to thank you. It's the last time I share this platform with you.
Will you be fired as well?
No, with the Secretary General of the ANC called Gwede. There can never be another Gwede. There's only one Gwede in the ANC.
That's true.
I really appreciate I really want to appreciate the time we spent together.
There's only one Gwede anywhere. You never came across anybody called Gwede. The only Gwede I know is myself. There's only one Gwede.
There were difficult moments. There were times where I also thought that Gwede himself has thrown hands in the air. I would call him and ask Gwede, SG, what do we do? He says, just say anything, Sisi. By that time, I will know that SG Naye is like Udini. SG, what do I say? Because I consult him on many things. SG is difficult. What do I say? Just say anything. I will miss those moments, Comrade SG. Thank you very much. Questions? You are now allowed questions. I know people who are very close to Clement. No, before that, where's Mantashe? Can we start with you?
SG, I mean, what was your message in terms of your assessment right now and looking on to the 2019 elections? What were you saying to the delegates in terms of the chances of the ANC? And secondly, did you have any concrete things that you said about the relationship that must be there between the president and the NEC going forward?
Clement, are you crossing live now? Oh, okay.
SG, thanks. You spoke about how this conference must take decisions and provide leadership, and you're mentioning state capture and Gandla. To what extent did those affect the organization? Can you please let us in on that? And SG, I imagine it must be frustrating acknowledging the impact of state capture, yet you have got the president of the ANC who denies the existence of this. Thanks.
Just pass it to Jan. People who really remember SG for everything.
Can I say?
Yes.
Jan Lange from Rapport. I think the judgments of the Constitutional Court about the powers and the obligations of MPs have possibly changed the balance of power or the relationship between the ANC caucus in Parliament and the NEC, which is traditionally the highest authority in the ANC when this conference is not sitting. Do you think that, how do you see this going forward? Is there a need to reconfigure the position of the caucus within the ANC structures?
Hajra, I know you're going to ask about Zimbabwe. No, he's going to ask about Zimbabwe.
How many questions?
That's the last one.
How many questions does Hajra have? She may ask 4.
Just ask one.
She may ask, how many Hajra?
Thank you, SG. Hajra Omarjee from Power 987. It's been a long time that you've been in office. You've served in the office for over 10 years.
Exactly 10 years.
And we've read parts of your organizational report. We've had many conversations with you over the last few years. A lot of your experiences as Secretary General were shared by the former Secretary General, Kgalema Motlanthe. So what is your advice to the incoming Secretary General on how to fix the ANC to ensure its survival going forward? And are you concerned that if your organizational reports go unsolved, like the former organizational reports went ignored to some degree, that the ANC may not survive for very much longer as a governing party? Thanks.
Please answer those, SG.
The 2019 elections, you always ask this question, what are the chances of the ANC? And actually, it's quite a strange question. Let me tell you how strange it is. It's because you want us to come to you and say, the ANC is finished now, it disappears, in 2019 it will not be around. I don't know how to expect that. The reason that we call National General Council, we convene, policy conference, we come to the national conference, all those are efforts to re-strengthen the organization. Where we have lost ground, we want to regain the lost ground. Now, anybody who asks us the question, what are the chances in 2019? Actually, is that we're working for regaining the lost ground. As we saw in the local government elections, we want to regain that. We don't want to be relegated into a rural party. We want to regain the metros and want to be a strong ANC. So anybody who asks the question, whether 2019 you have doubts or not, we can't have doubts about 2019. We must work hard to win them well and increase our support, improve from where we were in the 2016 elections. In other words, in the theme of the organizational report was that the ANC has a duty to recover a new growth trajectory. And if it doesn't recover that, there will be problems going forward. Like any other organization, every organization, it doesn't matter what organization, grows, peaks, matures, and when it matures, it stagnates and it declines. If it doesn't have a new growth trajectory to kickstart new growth, it actually declined to disappearance. And we're aware of that. We're looking into it all the time. We talk about it. We're not hanging our hands in the air to say, come the end of life, let's finish ourselves off. That is not what we're doing. We want a better ANC because a better ANC is good for the country. You know, I looked into preparation of this conference. Even investors talk about this conference with the hope that there will be this outcome, the rand strengthens. When it goes the other way, the rand weakens. It means that the ANC is recognized as a trailblazer and a leader of society. And we must not take that for granted, we must continue earning it. That's what we said. Relation between the president and the NEC, I don't know. What should that be? The president is the president of the NEC. He's elected in a conference here together with the NEC. The people who are elected separately are the officials. 6 officials are elected first, then the rest of the NEC. And it is that top 6 plus the remainder of the NEC plus ex-official members that constitute the National Executive Committee of the ANC. Now, when you say what is the relationship, it's a different matter. What is important is for the ANC to tighten the way it relates to the government. It elects and deploys people to government, and it must be concrete about relating to those people, re-strengthening the concept of the ANC being the strategic center of power. And that's what we should grapple with, and the new NEC must have the task of actually putting content to that. And therefore the question of engaging and consulting is quite key in the leadership. I always tell Ziz that power is about being able to allow others around you to exercise it on your behalf. Once power is overly centralized, it becomes dangerous to the incumbent. Once you allow people around you to exercise power on your behalf, it becomes quite exciting to lead. But all the time, leadership is not just about science and profession, it is also about art. And the art is about the personality of the individual. And that you cannot send anybody to school to change the personality. It is in the person, himself or herself. And that's it. The Nkandla issue and the state capture, and you are making a number of allegations there. All we are saying is that anything that happens in government when the ANC is leading impacts directly on the ANC. Whether the ANC is part of it or not, if we say we're not part of it, we wash our hands, we do that at our own peril. Anything that happens in government, if departments don't manage a project in Nkandla, that will impact on us. And it becomes an issue that depends on the narrative if we are not generous with information and be able to break down the Nkandla expenditure. Because all of you develop a narrative that says so much amount on the homestead. I can tell you that that money can be broken down. So much on the homestead, 71 million on the homestead, the rest is outside and around the homestead. But in the narrative, there's no such a breakdown. It impacts on the ANC. It impacts on the ANC. And when we came back there, we said the main issue about that project is not whether the residents of the president should be upgraded. That's not the issue. The issue is inflation of prices, and therefore that translates into losing the state coffers. And that is the issue that we said day one. We continue saying that. We are saying it is the ANC that is responsible to engage with that issue. On the state capture, we have a debate that issue, I can tell you now, and we confirm that in the conference, is that it's one debate that continues to divide us, because and we said it divides us, but it imposes a responsibility on the leadership of the ANC to engage in that debate, find a common, coherent, and a cohesive response to it. Because it's facing us, it is there, we can hide our head and say it does not exist. It exists, it is debated by society. The ANC cannot be seen to be flat-footed on the matter. And that is the responsibility facing the new leadership of the ANC. Judgments, that is your observation now, Jan. You stated as a fact that judgments tilted the balance of forces between the caucus and the NEC. I'm sure you think that Jackson is a chief whip. What you forget is that he's a member of the NEC and a member of the National Working Committee of the ANC. So there can be no tilting of balance between caucus and the NEC. There's no such a thing, because NEC members are in parliament. They are deployed in different roles and they play those roles. And therefore, when you say therefore must reconfigure the relationship, the ANC deploy cadres to parliament. That is the primary deployment. When they arrive there, they are given different responsibilities. Others become ministers, deputy ministers, speakers, deputy speakers, chief whip, and whips of committees and chairs of committees. That is a responsibility given to people deployed in parliament by the ANC. So there can be no reconfiguration of the relationship between the caucus and the ANC. That's why the issue of a debate that was artificial, in my view, of conscience, follow your conscience, party line must be ignored, was a mischievous debate, actually. Very mischievous, because you want to constitute the ANC into a gathering of free agents. There's no such an organization that allows itself to be a gathering of free agents who follow their conscience. Otherwise, we must have no conference, we must have no NEC, we must have no structural decision. That debate was a mischievous debate. You don't counterpose conscience and revolutionary morality to consciousness. You don't do it. consciousness, conscience, and revolutionary morality guide every individual cadre. But at the end of the day, the party structures take decisions, and those decisions must guide the line of action for its cadres. And that is the issue. So reconfiguration of the relationship, I don't know how that is, of the ANC reconfiguring relationship with itself. It doesn't work that way. Because it is cadres of the movement. If Jackson says something, don't isolate him from the ANC and say, Jackson this, and therefore the NEC this.